It all started while I was sitting on my porch, having my morning cigarette. I remember the moment in full completion. The door leading to the back of the housing opened, and in walked a man that could be ordinary to some, but to me he was stunning. There was something about him. The air about him was different. He was a strange and perfect element so out of place in the front yard. I felt like I had been staring for an eternity, more likely 35 seconds. He looked up and noticed me. He smiled and shouted a quick hey before walking past me toward the vacant apartment downstairs. In that small moment of passing, when our eyes connected, I felt a flutter bubbling to the surface, a small heat rising up to my throat, light and giddy. I hadn't felt it in a long time. It was as if all momentum had stopped. His eyes were unreal, the color complex. I found a cliched depth in them, even from the distance I was sitting. In that moment they seemed to shimmer. Obviously the sun was in them, or he had allergies. Whatever. It's all irrelevant except for the picture it painted for me in that frozen moment with which my mind had chose to preserve. I know it all seems excessive. All this happening in less than a couple seconds. I felt so quickly and so powerfully. I was completely dismantled before I could even figure out what had happened. I got up and went inside. With my back to the door, it hit me at once. It was as if I was in a whirlwind, a wasp nest, surrounded by buzzing currents. I had never felt this hypothetical love at first sight, never even believed in it. It was the thing of teenagers and people removed from reality. Shit. I suppose that's what I was, though. Completely removed from reality. I didn't see him again for 2 days. I tried not to think much about him. I could hear him banging around downstairs, installing furniture, I imagine. I was interrupted by a knock. I don't believe I could be any more mortified. I felt unprepared, opening my door to him.
Hi.
He stood there, a little unsure of himself.
I just wanted to introduce myself. I felt I should have since I was moving in and I was unable to. I didn't have the chance.
We exchanged
Sophie.
names and shook hands.
Nice to meet you.
He started to ask if I had a phone charger of some sort. Luckily, I had one. Words melted away and only the contact of our eyes remained. I assumed most of this was one-sided. It usually is. As I gave it to him, our hands touched. A brief brushing of the fingertips against sensitive palms.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll bring it back to you.
Okay.
Before he could leave, I asked, "Do you smoke?" We found ourselves on my porch smoking. He didn't smoke my brand normally, but he didn't have his cigarettes on him, so I gave him one of mine. Only the ashtray between us. There was some small talk, but mostly silence. I had so much to say, and nothing at all. What do you say to a stranger, really? Where have you moved from? Why have you moved here? Who are you, essentially? I probably asked those questions. The feelings had bottlenecked in my throat and prevented words from coming out. He seemed mildly relaxed. but I noticed his hand fidgeting towards the end of his cigarette. He thanked me for the charger and left after that. I finished another cigarette alone and went back inside, frustrated that nothing was said and no progress was made, but all the same, elated. I guess you could say I was lonely. I worked from home and didn't go out much. I appreciated the solitude, though, everything considered. I did leave the house every now and then, for food or more cigarettes, or to pop into the office and check in with my boss. I'd get to the point where I'd been inside for so long the walls felt like they were caving in on me. So I'd go for walks, fresh air and all that jazz. Mostly the sidewalks were empty during the daytime, save for a few people walking their dogs or jogging. I shudder at the thought. From then on, he went on my walks with me. It was as if I had blinked, and somehow he had wormed his way into my routine. I was struck with a desire to tell him how I felt, especially during the evenings, where he would come over to my porch and smoke with me. I guess I was a coward, though, afraid it truly was one-sided, insecurities and what-ifs. I enjoyed the strange line we both danced around, an unspoken companionship that had developed, a relationship that did so many things to me, aroused me, soothed me, and utterly uprooted me from my comfort zone. I was settled for something just better than mediocrity, because the alternative was too much a gamble. Sometimes I'd want it so badly, the vague it. What was it, though? It was loosely what you'd imagine a relationship is. Opening a line of uninhibited communication, the sharing of intimate moments. It was more than just having a lover. The need to discuss exclusiveness was unnecessary in my imaginings because we would both be content with just each other. We both provided the stimulation the other needed. I'd imagine we'd be out smoking, like we are now. I would offer to reheat our tea that had gone cold. I knew he didn't like tea all that much, seeing his mug was always halfway full by the time he left. We pick up our mugs and go inside. I start heating the kettle while he waited in the main room. I'd know this was the moment, the tipping point where I didn't want to maintain the line any longer. I was ready to gamble. A union of two people who met by chance, the one-sided infatuation of a lonely recluse and a kindred spirit. That's how I'd want it, just like that.